Perfect. Thank you again, everyone, for taking time out of your busy schedules at the start of the semester to spend time here with us. I once again want to thank the Provost Office, the Office of Information Technology, as well as the Center for Faculty Excellence for helping us co-host this event. As you can imagine, it's been months of work that's got us to this point. So thank you all. To build on Dr. Cohen's session, during our session, we'll be focusing on how you can use Top Hat to incorporate low-stake frequent assessments in your course and evidence-based iteration by delivering your content via Top Hat. At the onset, I want to mention that Top Hat by no means is the only way you can do this. Matter of fact, most of you are likely doing some or all of these. But the advantage with Top Hat being a centrally supported tool is that you're able to leverage it without adding cost to students, which I know is something that everyone keeps top of mind during this time. It's also the fact that because we are a centrally supported tool, you have resources both on and off campus that can help you when you need it. This includes folks from the instructional design team as well as the IT team, but more importantly, folks that are part of the University of Oklahoma Top Hat team, some of whom are present here today. So all this to say, we do hope you will consider using Top Hat in your courseware delivery needs. We will be actually using Top Hat during today's session. I recognize that a lot of you folks have likely not used Top Hat or not seen how Top Hat functions from a student perspective. So this I hope is a good opportunity for you to do so. You can either scan the QR code that you are seeing up here, which should bring you to our mobile website. Sorry. Oh, I am so sorry. Is that good? No? This one?
There.
Oh, perfect. All right. I'm so sorry. I am going to move one slide back. Yeah. So for those of you who are here with us in person, you're welcome to scan this QR code and just be sure to log in via your the mobile app. And once you get into the browser app, you will see login via mobile site. If you have any challenges in logging in, please raise your hand and one of us can come support you. For those of you who are joining us via Zoom, I'm going to post this in the chat as well for you. Just as a reminder, some of you may already have Top Hat Professor account. So this is for folks on Zoom. Please be sure to open a incognito window and then copy paste that. I'm just going to bring it back for folks who are here to scan the QR code as well. Perfect. I'm just jumping on for the sake of folks who are over Zoom. Once again, please be sure if you are using your laptops or desk computers, please be sure to use a incognito or a private window when accessing this link. If not, it will try and access it through your existing account. Link in the chat, please. There you go. Oh, I'm so sorry. Here you go, Stephanie. I've put it back in the chat for you. I'm just going to give folks who are on Zoom a few minutes to jump in here. Perfect. If we are ready. I will go ahead and launch our first top hat question. And you can use either the on the mobile device or on your laptop to respond to this. For those of you who may be looking at Top Hat for the first time, as you can see, there's this little sticker at the bottom that gives you quick evidence on your students responding to questions. And in just a moment, we will look at what those responses are as well. I see there's someone in the chat who's having trouble joining this. So I've just posted the link for you in the chat once again. What you can do is just copy paste that link, open up a private or an incognito window on your computer, and you can go ahead and paste that link and you will see join as a guest. Oh, I'm so sorry. A host and panelists, yeah. Javid, let me know if you can see it now. Okay, perfect. For the sake of those of us who are joining from Zoom, I'm just going to give us a few more minutes. I will go ahead and go on to the responses now. Perfect. And let's look at the responses. Okay. You still good? Oh, I'm so sorry, folks. I'm really struggling with this today. All right. Unsurprisingly, it's evident that most of us do agree that maintaining attention is a challenge. I think I can speak for myself as well. In today's age of social media, I oftentimes struggle, especially when I'm trying to multitask, to keep my attention span on something for more than 10 to 15 minutes. So undoubtedly, this is an experience that our students share as well. But it's important to consider how we can vary our lectures with activities and discussions to give students the opportunity to replenish their energy reserves throughout the lecture and to maximize their cognitive load so that they can be actively engaged. Is it? Yeah. Yeah, what happens to me? Yeah. A great way to think about this is by looking at some research. I particularly like this example that Dr. Andrea Hendricks, an associate professor of mathematics from Georgia State University Perimeter College, and a strong top hat user shared during one of our previous Engage conferences. In this study, Eric Mazur, a physics instructor at Harvard, noticed that he was giving great lectures, but students could not apply concepts and they performed poorly on tests afterwards. There's some interesting research on the fact that great lectures can actually give students a false sense of confidence in their own learning. So he monitored students' brain activities over a course of 7 days. The patterns that we see are pretty similar across students. But the big takeaway is that students are passively consuming information, whether that's on television or during a lecture. Their brain activity during activities such as this is pretty low. However, what is more interesting is when you look at what happens to brain activity during the labs or during homework, brain activity is actually super high because they're working and thinking as these activities are challenging them to do so. It is really important to consider how we can move this into a lecture experience because lectures are still a mainstay of course delivery and the place where students consume most of their course information. This can be challenging to see how we can process more activities to achieve similar levels of mental engagement. The hope is for Top Hat and tools such as us to be able to help you deliver those activities during class. So what can we do about this? Dr. James Lang, who is a keynote speaker from our Higher Learnings webinar, provides a helpful framework for managing learning during lecture-based experiences. The big picture idea at play here is that we can use acts, scenes, rises and falls, ebbs and flows in action to help keep students focused. As Dr. Cohen mentioned, it's about thinking like a playwright and a composer who masters a piece over the course of a 50-minute lecture. Zooming in even further, Dr. Todd Zakrizik, who's an associate professor at UNC Chapel Hill, an acclaimed expert in teaching and learning, offers a similar perspective. Adding structure and activities during your lectures offers lecture-based practices, increases the learnings that occur and helps students be more successful. He offers a model of when to incorporate these strategies, considering the degree of retention, when breaks are needed, and when it is time to reinforce key information. I want to launch one more question at this time to see what are some of the things that you think you can do during lecture time to make it more, make class time more dynamic. A timer. Just to keep us moving along, I am going to add a timer here. Perfect. Just to keep us moving along, I'm going to close this poll and show us the responses. Yep. Undoubtedly, there are a lot of tools in our toolkit that we can use. Perfect. There are a lot of different things that we can, as I mentioned, undoubtedly do during class time to make it dynamic. I've also got a few listed here on the slide. What do students already know about a topic? What are topics that they have been exposed to previously? Are there topics that they have read during their reading activities that we can bring them back on? Is there something that we can do at the start of class to help improve their recollection? Activities like these don't necessarily take a lot of time, but they do take a little bit of preparation ahead of time. And that's where Top Hat and our technology can help you. Now, you might be wondering, why is all this important? One of the considerations is insight. And as Dr. Cohen mentioned earlier, evidence or information-based iteration. And that's where Top Hat can really help you. As this slide suggests, the more you use Top Hat and its interactive features, the more insight you get. So instead of you as educators and faculty having to wait till, say, the mid-semester exams or your first test to come in, you're able to get that feedback live in class, and it gives you the ability. Sorry? Folks, I don't know why I'm struggling with the Zoom so much today, but I'm not able to look at my speaker notes while I move my slides for some reason. But as I mentioned, what we hope to do with Top Hat is give you multiple tools and opportunities to gather this insight both before lecture as well as during lecture, so you can take that corrective action live as opposed to being waiting until your midterm exams or your first test results to come in. And you might say, all this is great information, but how do we know this works? So on our end, we have done some research. We have actually collected data. This is data from Georgia State University, where we analyzed over 130,000 students in approximately 3,500 courses in the spring 2021 semester. And what we noticed is when students interact with Top Hat features early and often, they tend to do better. And undoubtedly, the students who do so are those A-grade students who are performing much better. But what is more important is that the B and C students, as the semester progresses along and as they engage more with the material, their grades tend to improve. Now, I want to mention that this data only looks at the grades available on Top Hat. And as you can imagine, Top Hat counts often for a small percentage of the overall grades available to students. So to take this study further, we are now working with Indiana University, which is another partner institution like the University of Oklahoma, where we are doing a combined research to see the overall impact from Top Hat on all grades and outcomes. We hope to present that through both conferences and a paper in the near future. And I see Dr. Cohen smiling in the back because he's actively part of this project. Perfect. At this time, I want to jump into Top Hat and show you how Top Hat can help you do these things. First and foremost, this is our mission statement. We hope to empower educators to deliver personalized, meaningful, equitable learning experiences in each and every course that they take. And how we do so is through major functions. One is synchronous engagement in the classroom, and the other is asynchronous engagement. As Dr. Cohen mentioned, the platform is powered by frequent formative assessments. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, how is this different from Canvas, our learning management system? Learning management systems are built to be the repository of student information. However, when it comes to classroom engagement or student engagement at all, they often fall short as they offer a Frankenstein solution. Top Hat is designed to be an engagement layer that sits on top of your learning management system. So we integrate with your learning management system by LTI 1.3, which means things such as roster syncing, grade syncing, roster management, and grade management are all automated. And therefore, we are able to easily move data between Top Hat and Canvas solutions. Now, what that looks like, this is what that could look like in terms of how you use the system like Top Hat in conjunction with Canvas. We offer, and we will be diving into the platform in a lot more detail in just a moment here, but you're able to automate things like taking attendance, having those live discussions, having formative assessments, quizzing, as well as options such as delivering content outside of class. We have a partnership with OpenStax that gives you the ability to pull OER content into your courses and help make it your own. We also offer our own national titles that you can adopt as an adopter. And most importantly, our technology also enables you to take your own content that you might have as a PDF, a Word document, and make it dynamic. Perfect. So that was a quick overview of the Top Hat platform. Now I want to jump into the actual platform itself. Just want to share my screen. Perfect. All right, as you can see, I was using our active course to deliver the presentation just a moment ago, and I have that as an introduction presentation right here. The first thing I want to do is to walk you through just a general layout of what the Top Hat platform looks like. So what we are looking at here is a professor account. We have both a professor account as well as a student account. Student accounts can be accessed via a mobile app on an iPad or via a browser on both mobile and laptop devices. The faculty account is only available from a laptop device, but you are able to control your slides for those of you who prefer to use iPads from a web browser on your iPad or your mobile device. A few things I want to call out right off the bat. Each course has a unique 6-digit number associated with it, similar to how Canvas courses have a CRN number associated with it. Top Hat has a 6-digit code associated with it. So each semester, as you build more and more content into your platform, into your course shell, we are able to copy it over for continuity's sake into the next semester. And all of this is done by Top Hat support or can be done by yourself as well. The other thing I want to mention is the content tab. So there are 3 main tabs here: content, gradebook, and student. The content tab is where you create all of your content. Gradebook is self-explanatory. It's where all the responses and grades get captured. And the student tab is where the student roster is managed. As I mentioned earlier, we have a LTI 1.3 integration. This means that you have nothing to do in terms of roster management. Every night, Top Hat and Canvas's rosters sync to ensure even through ad drop period, you have the same students on both platforms. So all of that is managed for you. The primary button or the home button, as I like to call it, is the add to course button here. This offers you all of the different options that you can use to add material into your Top Hat course. The basic building block of a Top Hat course is a folder. Folders not only help you organize content, but they also ensure that your gradebook has the same columns as the folder has. So if you have a week 1 folder, the columns on your gradebook will start at level 1, week 1, and then every item below that will be a sub-level on that particular folder. Just going to refresh my page here. Perfect. All right, so now I have this subfolder called week 1. As I mentioned, Top Hat can be used for both pre-class or outside class assessment as well as in-class assessment. So the first thing I'm going to do is create subfolders to organize that. So I'm going to name that as pre-work as well as lecture. The great thing with the content tree on the left-hand side is that you can move and drag and drop items within each other. We support up to 3 levels of folder organization. Perfect. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is upload a slide into this. Now, the great thing with Top Hat is that you can use your own slides. For those of you who might be wondering, do I need to upload my slides on Top Hat? The answer is no. We do offer a desktop application that floats over your slides. So you are able to continue to use Google or Microsoft as your native presentation application, and then use the desktop application to ask questions on the fly. I do want to mention that the web platform is the more powerful of the 2 options and the one that gives you most number of question options. Perfect. As you can see, my presentation is now loaded. And what Top Hat does is split that presentation into individual slides. As we alluded to earlier, a great activity for the start of class is just to reference back to reading material that students may have completed ahead of this particular lecture. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on Add to Course and use poll or question. As you can see, we have a number of different question types. The great thing with these questions is all questions except for long answer as well as file submission is auto graded. So by no means is Top Hat adding more work to you in terms of grading and managing. All of these can be set up to be auto graded besides the long answer question as well as the file submission question. So the first thing I'm going to go do is set up a word answer. I'm going to give this a title as question. Perfect. Now, with each of these questions, you have the ability to set a correct answer. But in the case of this question, it's a more open form, open-ended question. So you can go ahead and click the delete button. So this is now becomes a open form question. You are able to assign correctness and participation grades to each and every question. But as you can see, there is now a lock button besides the correctness option as there is no correct answer. And I do want to mention that all of these settings can be retroactively changed. That is, after you are done with class, should you feel that a question needs to be assigned as participation and not participation and correctness, you can do so, and it will retroactively go into the gradebook as well. Another functionality that, and Dr. Cohen referred to this in his session as well, is our new AI-powered functionality ACE. ACE hopes to help reduce time that you take in creating those low-stakes formative questions. So an easy way to do that is select any one slide and go ahead and hit Generate AI Question. So I'm going to select a few slides just to be able to space this out. Perfect. As you can see, what ACE does is read the contents in the slide. So it can read text, images, as well as graphs to create a question. At this time, we support multiple choice questions. We are already working on our discussion question type, which I will show you just in a moment. And in terms of user data and security, none of your information is being taken away or shared externally. What we're doing is passing that back to have the question generated. And the only feedback that we are taking from you is this up and down, thumbs up and thumbs down. So far, we have seen over 85% thumbs up from our faculty who have generated questions this semester. The ACE functionality has only been live for about 6 months. So for us, this is extremely positive news. However, if you do see some sort of a correction that you want to make, you are able to go into edit mode and edit that question for yourself as well. Now, a good way to keep in mind in terms of how many questions you ask in class, we like to follow a 10-2 rule. So for every 10 minutes of lecturing, we recommend doing one activity. This goes back to the research that I was referring to at the start as well. The hope is by breaking up the session, we are reducing the cognitive load on students and re-energizing their batteries so that they can concentrate for the next 10-minute sprint. This also gives you that insight and feedback that I was referring to earlier, where you're able to know whether students have actually understood the materials you've covered in the preceding 10 minutes, or whether you need to go back to it and refresh any of that information. Another question type that I also want to really quickly show you is our click on image question type. It's very popular with both faculty and students. Perfect. So you go into question. This is right here at the bottom. That's the click on target question. Since my knowledge about mitochondria is limited, I am going to say just identify X. I'm going to go ahead and upload it. You are now able to select a particular segment or a section on this image. Clearly, this image is already marked, so it is not going to be as effective. But when you are using this in class, you're able to select one particular section and sort of draw a spot within it where students need to identify something on the image. For our last question type, what I want to do is have a discussion question type. Now, this is extremely unique in that it's among the only question types that you can use in an active lecture setting where you're able to have a conversation with students or use it as a conversation starter. It's not necessary that all students are going to respond to the discussion, but it does give you the ability to get a more wider perspective of the student base and not just those extroverted students who are likely to raise their hands and share their views in class. Another unique functionality of the discussion question is the anonymity function it has built into it, especially for those of you who may be dealing with topics such as race, religion, sexual orientation. You want to create that safe space for your entire student base to be able to share their opinions, and discussion question types help you do so. So you are able to either set as responses can be seen by everyone. I'm going to go ahead and do that, but I am going to make sure that the participants are anonymous to participants only. And you will see in just a moment how this works on your end. Perfect. With that, we are done for the most part with our first building out our first lecture. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is work on our pre-work. So I'm going to look for some material here on Google. Again, the idea here is that you can use your own material. This does not have to be, in this case, I'm just using an example. But the expectation is that most of you already have material built in. So I find it often easiest to use a wiki page because it's easily accessible. But the functionality that we will use for this is called Top Hat Pages. And I know Pages is really familiar for most of you, given that Canvas also calls its functionality Pages. But I'm going to go ahead and add a title. I'm going to say Psychology Lecture 1, Physiology Lecture 1, Rework. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this content. Perfect. Again, by no means recommending that we plagiarize other people's content. This is just the easiest way for me to show you this example. But though the Pages functionality is similar to most word processing documents, what makes Top Hat's Pages functionality powerful is our interactive toolbar. So similar to your lecture, you are able to build in those interactive elements throughout your pre-class reading material. And now with the power of AI and ACE in particular, you're able to take away doing so yourself. So what I'm going to do is ask ACE to build a question based on the material above. So I've clicked on the blue interactive toolbar, click the third option, which is generate AI question. And what ACE is doing is reading the preceding information and building a multiple choice question. What is more powerful with this functionality is that we also include hints and explanations. And though this is a really powerful feature, we find that faculty often don't utilize this, just given the effort it takes to build in these hints and explanations. But with ACE, we are able to almost automate this. Another cool function that we see a lot of faculty use is leverage videos within their pages. Perfect. So the other option, as I mentioned, is the use of videos. We are able to, through our partnership with both YouTube and Vimeo, embed a video directly within the pages function. The great thing with this is that students are not going to be taken out onto YouTube. They will stay in line. And with our partnership, we ensure that there is no ads. So it's not that students start a video and end up watching a rabbit video 1 hour later. They are going to stay on topic and be able to continue. Now, there are a few more bells and whistles with the pages functionality. So you are able to add questions. So these are the same questions that you saw in the lecture experience. You are able to import questions. So for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just import the question that I just had Ace create. You're also able to embed images as well as discussions. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, how often should we add these interactive elements? We go back to the same 10-2 rule, but instead, given that we are reading text, we recommend to do after every 2 scrolls. So after every 2 scrolls, we could have a question, an image, a video, something to help break up and space out the students' learning experience. Finally, one of the other powerful features with pages is the iframe option. So you are able to iframe websites and external links into the page as well. Now, I do want to call out that this functionality really depends on whether the host website has that option enabled. So you do have to play around with it a little bit just to make sure that it works. After all this is done, you go ahead and hit save and you close. Perfect. So as you can see, we have now built out a pre-class reading work for this course, and we have also built out week 1 lecture. Now, something I want to mention here is in Canvas, you publish your course, so you make materials available to students. The advantage with Top Hat, as you can see up here, is this material is private and students have no access. So as some of you start on your journey with using Top Hat, the idea is not that you build all of your content all at once. You're able to really space it out. And even with doing something like pre-work, we find that faculty most often like to start with the in-class lecture experience. So they like to have their lecture slides uploaded and questions built. And then over time, as they get more and more comfortable with Top Hat, they leverage more of its functionality. One other functionality that I'm not going to dive into today that's available is from a post-class perspective, you are able to build your quizzes into Top Hat as well. We offer both a browser lockdown quizzing functionality as well as an open quizzing functionality that you can leverage. Perfect. So now that material is ready, we are good to go ahead and make this available to students. So what I'm going to first do is assign the pre-class reading material as homework to students. You are able to set a time limit for this. So faculty typically like to have this the night before when their lecture is due. You are able to also ensure that you provide students with feedback and show correctness. And for those of you who want to make this low stakes, you can have multiple attempts set for the question as well. So I'm going to go ahead and assign. As that has happened, I am now going to jump into the lecture itself. So I'm going to go back to present. There are 2 ways, again, to make content available to students. You either assign it to them before class or after class as homework or review material, and you're able to present material to students. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the present option. For those of you who have logged into Top Hat in your mobile devices, I just want to give you a moment to get back onto your browser. Perfect. Another functionality that faculty often like to use Top Hat for is taking attendance. So I'm going to go ahead and click Take Attendance. When you launch attendance on Top Hat, each time you launch attendance, we generate a unique 4-digit code for students to enter. So just for the sake of showing you, once we have done with this, I can generate another code. Now, a question that we often get here is, well, can we have a secure attendance? And the answer is yes. Top Hat uses a combination of Bluetooth and IP technology to create what we call as a geofence that helps ensure that students are within close proximity when they are marking themselves as present. For those students who are outside of that proximity barrier, they will be marked as absent. Very recently, we also built in some diagnostic technology into the platform from a student experience. So if you have secure attendance turned on, we ensure we do the pre-checks, such as checking that permissions are available, that none of their Bluetooth is turned off. All of that work is done ahead of time. So any hassle that you may think of from using it is, for the most part, taken care of by the technology ahead of time. Perfect. So I see that attendance is slow today, so I am going to minimize it and keep it open, which is another option. This means that students continue to have the ability to mark themselves as present when they come into class. Another function, and this is relatively new, launched just in the last 30 days, is our student view feature. We recognize that, especially at OU, as some of you start to dive into Top Hat, you might want to see what the students see before you actually go into the lecture experience. So for that, you're able to use Student View. Now, what we're doing for Student View here is we're not creating a new account for you. Instead, we are just launching you onto a new tab. So in the previous tab, you still have the faculty experience, and the Student View tab, you have the Student View experience. So I'm going to go ahead and punch in. I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. Perfect. Just a moment. In this case, I had my presenter notes turned on. So I'm going to disable my presenter notes. Start that again. Okay. Presentation. Once again, as we did at the start with my own slides, these questions are now integrated into your slide deck itself. Here at the bottom, you can see the attendance code is still running for those students who are coming in late, and you can go ahead and start the question. This question may have been framed incorrectly. I don't know how you're going to share your feedback in 1 or 2 words, so feel free to use more words. Again, as you can see here at the bottom, I mentioned this earlier as well. We do offer you this sticker so that you're not waiting endlessly to see if students have responded. So you have a good knowledge of how many students have responded. You also have this timer option. So you are able to set a timer, sort of increase the pressure on students to put in their responses. In terms of how much time, you are able to set this up in your settings as well ahead of time. Perfect. I see that we have about 50% of the responses so far. So I'm going to go ahead and close this question. This means that students are no longer able to punch in their responses. We do offer a setting that allows you to do so, that when you do close the question and show responses, students can go back and continue to submit their responses. And then you are able to see this as a histogram as well. Now, I was hoping to show you the reason I recommended using 1 or 2 words in the framing of my question is to show you word cloud function. This is, again, one that is very popular. It's the ability for you, and please ignore my framing of the question, but you are able to show a word cloud. And if you frame the question correctly, the words that have most responses will appear bigger than the other words. Perfect. And from here, you pretty much jump straight back into your lecture. So in terms of getting that live feedback, now you have the opportunity. In this case, the way I framed it is feedback on the previous session, but this could be free feedback from their reading material, or what's their muddiest point from the reading material that they covered before class. And from here, you're able to simply jump on. I want to show you the word cloud as well. So on your end, if you go back to Top Hat, you should be now able to see the image. If you click on the image, it expands into a bigger image, and then you're able to place your response anywhere on the image. Let us know if you're having any trouble with doing so. I also want to call out what you're using currently is a functionality called guest access. This experience is a bit limited and very different from what students have. What I'm using here is the mobile app. As I mentioned earlier, students can also use their laptops and a browser on their laptop to do so. My class size just dropped from 21 to 20.
The resubmit option, does that cancel your
Previous submission, yes. We also offer a group functionality. So you're able to club students into a particular group, and then one of them is able to respond. Even in that case, if there's a second response, it overrides the previous one. Great news is I have more than 50% responses now. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and show you what the responses on this looks like. As you can see, what it does is generate a heat map. I appreciate that my students took me seriously when I said identify X, but the more responses you have, the brighter the color becomes. Again, we find that faculty find it very useful, especially in STEM courses, to make use of this functionality. Another thing I also want to point out is this slide tray at the bottom. So for whatever reason, if you want to at some point jump ahead a few slides and come back, or jump behind, you are able to do so. For the sake of time, I'm going to jump ahead and going to start the AI generated question that we looked at. From a user interactivity perspective, the interaction is the same. I recognize that the UX and UI is a bit different, but that's just because we are currently in the process of moving on to a new question building experience. Perfect. Because we have dealt with the multiple choice a couple of times, I'm going to jump into sort of the last question type here, which is the discussion question type. That's my own response. But as you can see, this question was set up as an anonymous discussion. So right here at the top, you see that the student's name is hidden. But if I were to go in and click on it, I am able to see the student's name. So this was set up such that faculty can see the participants, but students cannot see participants either. Perfect. And one last function that I want to show you here is the ability to include a new whiteboard sketch. So basically a blank canvas that you can write on. We find that some faculty find this to be useful. I will be the first to admit trying to use this on your trackpad on a computer is nearly impossible. But for those of you who do use an iPad in your class, or like to annotate on an iPad, this is functionality that you can use. And the great thing with this is it has the ability to save any of the annotations and make it available to students for later. Perfect. So with that, let's assume I have concluded my lecture for the day. I want to now make this material available to students. So similar to the pre-work, what you are able to do is assign. But this time around, I'm going to assign this as review. So this is not graded. The material continues to remain available to students. They can go back and reference it, but they can't change any of their responses. Perfect. So with that, we have looked at most of the major functionality that Top Hat offers from a faculty perspective. I just want to take a moment to also look at some functionality with generative AI and particularly ACE that we have built for students. In this case, what we are trying to do is help unblock students. So we recognize that students often consume content outside of class, often in their dorms and homes, when they don't have someone available to help answer their questions or help clarify questions that they have. So what we have built in is a chat function using generative AI. Something I do want to call out is we have taken a very concerted effort to ensure integrity and ensure that there are no such things as hallucinations. And the way that we are able to do that is to be able to root the use of AI in the context of the course. So because Top Hat has access to the page, the material within the page, the name of the course level, we are able to ensure that ACE uses that context to respond to students and that it's not going out into the World Wide Web to respond to students. So that way we are able to help reduce some of those hallucinations. On our end, we are seeing none at this point in time, but given the fact that we are a technology, I don't want to state anything in an ultimatum. Some of the things that ACE allows students to do is able to chat with it, ask questions, ask quizzes. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, why can't students use ACE to find answers to the questions within the assignment? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this question with all of the options within it and going to paste that and ask ACE to give me an answer. As you can see, what ACE has done is it's taken on a Socratic persona. So instead of giving you an answer, it's trying to point you back into where that material was covered and what reference was made to that material. I do want to mention, as faculty, you have the ability to enable and disable ACE for within your course. If this is something that you're still unsure of or still want to have more knowledge and context around, you can disable ACE at a course level for yourself. We continue to experiment with ACE rapidly and are already thinking about things like improving accessibility using AI, helping ensure students can translate their notes, which they can maintain within Top Hat using AI. So we do hope to release some of that functionality to you in the near future here. One last point that I want to make before I jump back and conclude our session for Q&A is the support that's available to you. So within your Top Hat function, you have this question mark option right here at the top. We have a dedicated support team which offers technical support to both students and faculty over chat, email, as well as telephone. You're able to give us a call from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. As I alluded to earlier, we do offer that presentation tool, which is the floating widget that can hang around on top of your slides. That can also be accessed right here from within your course. Finally, I also want to highlight our support center. So think of this as a Google for Top Hat. If you have any question and you want to ask about Top Hat, you can simply type it in here, and we give you the relevant support articles around it. We also host articles for student material right here within it. Perfect. Before I open up for Q&A, I want to highlight one final slide here. If Top Hat has piqued your interest from this session and you want to learn more, I've put in my colleague Holden Milligan's calendar link and email up here. Holden is what's called the Enterprise Engagement Manager. His primary task is to help you get started, help you make the most of Top Hat. We don't think Top Hat is a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter solution. What we want to do is jump on a Zoom call with you, spend 20 to 30 minutes trying to understand what you do already and what parts of it can be done on Top Hat, and help make you make that transition. So Holden is available to you both in terms of Zoom meetings as well as over email. Of course, you can ask any of the Top Hatters here. You're more than welcome to email any of us, and we will either get you the answer you need or connect you with the right person, part of the team, to jump on a call with you. And this is just the support information that I shared earlier. That is my session for today. I do recognize I have gone through a lot of material. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to ask right now. Yes.
So how do you use the analytics part of it?
Yeah.
Attendance, how do you look at it?
Absolutely. So for those of you on Zoom, the question was, could we look at how we take some of that analytics and show it for everyone here? Perfect. So the first thing I want to call out is I access the gradebook. Now you will recognize that there were over 22 people on the course with us, but there's only about 8 folks here. The reason for that is all of you were using what is called guest access. So none of your material is captured here, but the Top Hatters in the room were using their own student accounts. So as long as students are using a student account, that information will be translated here. In terms of how you can use this space, something I want to call out right off the bat is these these color-coded bars right at the top of each column. This is an easy way for you to delineate whether students have understood material or not. So if you are seeing green, this means more than 85% of your class has gotten that material correct. If you see yellow, I think it's between 55 to 75, and anything below 55 is red. So if you do ever see a red, that gives you an indication to jump in and look at that work. And you can really get granular with how deep you want to go into this. So here, as you can see, for the presentation I made, the first 3 questions have performed really well, but the discussion question has not. In this case, it's because I have not got enough responses, but in a live course setting, you will be able to get more of this data. In terms of pre-class work, again, this is where Top Hat can be super powerful, is that before you go into that lecture session, you're really quickly able to come into the gradebook, look at which are those columns that have the yellows and the reds. And when you go into class, you're able to go in with that insight and take corrective action right then and there. I also want to point out that you can get super granular with this data. So we can go down to a student level as well. So you can look at which are the questions students have responded to, what is their attendance been like. So all of this information is available to you. And finally, I alluded to this earlier, the ability for you to retroactively change the percentage points for questions. So what I'm going to do is try to show you one where I have questions. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and select this question, select settings. I'm either able to adjust the weights. So at this point, if I want to make this for 0 correctness, but 10 participation points, I'm able to do that. I'm also able to excuse either a particular question or a day's questions for a particular student. So if you have students who have pre-approval from you to miss a class, you're able to quickly adjust their grades so that that day's grade points are not counted towards their total. And the great thing that we do is we adjust that particular student's denominator. So if the total course points was worth 100 and the student got excused for 1 class and each class is 10 points, if you excuse them, their grade denominator becomes 90. So from a grade transfer perspective, you're still able to take percentages back to Canvas. The one thing that I'm not able to show you here is the grade transfer functionality because this course is not currently linked to a Canvas course. But essentially, you have a button here, which would be beside the customize button, which would be a grade transfer. So you're able to click on that. When you click on that, you're either able to select your total grades or you're able to select individual grade columns that you want to transfer back. Any other questions? I'm going to take the first question first because I'm unsure about the second one. But to answer the first question, the question here is, would it be possible to make changes to slides after they are uploaded onto Top Hat? The answer is yes. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. Again, we have a partnership with Microsoft that allows you to do so. I'm going to unassign this lecture slide. As you can see, there's this functionality here called Edit in PowerPoint. You're able to go ahead and click on it. What this does is open you up and take you to Microsoft Online, where you are now able to change your slides. I do want to call out, if you have pre-built questions within the slides, Top Hat will do its best to realign those questions. That is, if you increase or decrease the number of slides. But as I showed you earlier, you are able to move around those questions within the content tree as and when required. So as you can see, I've made that small change. I can say save and return to. Look this up. For some reason, that did not work. But that's probably something to do on my end. The functionality does work. It's been around for quite some time. Another thing that I do want to mention is for those of you who now want to have a record of this on your end, because you have updated the slides, you are able to download the new version of the PPT from Top Hat. And for those of you who want to allow these slides to be available to students, you can simply allow students to download the slide turned on. Stephanie, I want to come back to your question here. If I can lean on one of you for clarity on this question. I don't believe there is a timeline for including images within assessments in Top Hat. Are you all able to see the question? So the question is, at OU Health Sciences Center, we rely heavily on utilizing images to identify and diagnose. What is the timeline for including images within assessments in Top Hat outside of the pages feature?
We asked about that one.
Oh, coming soon. Oh, I think I know what you're referring to. Thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate you giving that clarity. So I think what Stephanie is referring to here is if you go into the question building function, and if you go into multiple choice, what she's referring to is here images coming soon. So as I mentioned, we are currently in the midst of moving to a new question building platform. So what we are calling a new question builder. But Stephanie, to answer your questions, in the interim period, what you are able to do is leverage classic questions. So if you go into classic, choose multiple choice, you do have the ability to attach images here. Again, going to go with X and save. Sorry. Perfect. As you can see, we now created a multiple choice question with an image built into it. As I mentioned, we are currently in the midst of a transition. So the this functionality will be available in the new question builder in the near future. Perfect. I think I have a lot of time in my hand, but if there were no other questions, we should be able to give you all some time back between now and the next session. For those of you who are going to be staying back with us, we are going to have the second last session of the day, which is going to be a faculty and student panel. We're going to hear from faculty on what's working and what's not. We're also going to have the unique opportunity to listen to a student as well as a grad student who has been with a rather unique journey in Top Hat. So I don't want to give away a lot. And that session will be hosted by Tanya Nolan. Tanya has been one of the Top Hat representatives to the University of Oklahoma for nearly 3 years now. So one person who has a lot of context and has helped a lot of people get set up with Top Hat. So that session starts at 11:20. So I think, sorry. All right, that session starts at 11:45, but we will be serving lunch at 11:20 for those of you who are joining us for lunch. And if there was no other questions, I will call my time. Thank you.